So basically, all your healthcare data are like they're fragmented and they're siloed when in different hospitals and clinics that you visit. And what we help you do is that we help you aggregate the data in single point, so that you are the one managing it, owning it, and then in the end, you'll be able to use it as your digital asset and sell it and trade it for profit.
And hello, I'm receiving today Ethan Chae, the founder of Hippocrat. Ethan and I met, if I remember well, back at the DeSci Summit in Dubai. Was it April or something like that this year? And I was immediately hooked up on his story and what he's building, what he's been building, because it's been live for a while now. So I thought I'd invite him to this podcast and have a chat with us. Ethan, what is it now in Korea? Is it good afternoon or good morning?
Actually,
still?
in the morning. It's morning, 10 a.m. in the morning.
So good to have you on board, Ethan. So I think this normal way that we run this is maybe you start by introducing yourself a little bit and tell us about your story.
Sure. I'm running Hippocrat with my co-CEO, HS. This is one of the many ventures I started. I've been running my own company since I was 20. I have sort of multiple cultural backgrounds. I grew up in Italy and I went to school in the States. I'm from Korea. I began to have interest in like healthcare when I was in Italy. I actually had like knee problems that no one in the Western like medicine could actually solve. And then I started getting acupuncture and exhibition done from my family, extended family, who was an Oriental doctor. And then, like, surprisingly, it was cured. So I was like, wow, how does it even happen? It's very interesting how, like, all the inflammation was gone. So since then, I actually studied by myself with some tutors, like how to do acupuncture and exhibition when I was in high school. And I applied to all the colleges as a biomedical engineer major. And then I just somehow fell into the startup rabbit hole. I ended up co-founding a company when I was in the second year of high school. And luckily enough, we got invited to TechCrunch as a finalist. And that just changed everything. So I changed my major. And then since then, I was running my own company since. And then I bumped into our team in Hippocrat. And in the beginning, we're just talking about how I could help there. Before rebranding, Hippocrat used to be Humanscape. Humanscape is healthcare. It's a potential unicorn in Korea that's probably going IPO soon. And then it was Hippocrat was a blockchain arm of Humanscape. So we spinned it out, and I'm running it ever since from 23. Right. Yep, that's what it is. And then it reignited my passion for healthcare, because before that I was doing IT, fashion, like brands, and then now I'm back into healthcare. So it's crazy how like life actually evolves.
That's quite interesting. So you're saying this was a normal company, as a non-crypto, totally old-fashioned healthcare company, and then you spun this out into a Web3 variant. Is that correct?
Oh no, to be more precise, they had a token from the very beginning, but we had more of a Web2 leaning, because like in the beginning, Humanscape started as a blockchain like ledger for all the data happening for the Humanscape related apps and related like partners, and then now it became a standalone kind of own infrastructure outside Humanscape ecosystem. So we are now more like, instead of serving Humanscape related apps, we are serving like completely different partners, like our healthcare institutions and medical institutions that want to leverage our technology for managing their data and like healthcare data in general. And we're helping patients to control, like own and control their own data.
So let's zoom out for our audience, I suppose,
Yeah.
because when I when I heard you in Dubai at the first DeSci Summit before the floods, or the day of the floods, actually, it was quite funny.
Yeah.
I kind of felt that I was hearing an echo of myself, or at least part of the vision that animated me at the time. So I was like, gosh, I love this guy. And but for our audience, what is the big problem that you're actually solving?
So, like, I guess it's very um, emphasizable in the sense. So if you go to a doctor, so say if you as a patient, if you go to like a hospital A or hospital B, and then you get some kind of diagnosis, examination you get hospital A, and you want to transfer that out to hospital B to share your conditions, and you want to do additional checks there, or like you want to cross check. Like when you have a condition, you want to cross checks between multiple doctors to actually understand what's going on. And the issue currently in most of the countries is that you cannot digitally transfer that data. You actually either have to print it out in document format, or they give you in like CD, USB. Then you bring it and then you give it to the doctor, and he has to figure out how to read that data. And then sometimes they don't even accept like data from outside. You have to do examination from the top again. That's sort of waste of money and waste of your energy and time. And also it becomes extremely hard for patients to manage their data that's scattered around different sources. And basically all your healthcare data are like they're fragmented and they're siloed when in different hospitals and clinics that you visit. And what we help you do is that we help you aggregate the data in single point, so that you are the one managing it, owning it, and then in the end, you'll be able to use it as your digital asset and sell it and trade it for profit.
I see. Very interesting. The situation in New Zealand is probably a little less fragmented than that. I must admit they have a system but it's been changing through the last 10 years. So I've been here 20 years, so I've seen it evolve. Recently, it's kind of more coming together. They're getting the understanding that you need to have it all accessible by any practitioner in the country. But I've lost general practitioner data. So I've been with one GP for a while, then another GP, then another GP, and I've tried to tell them, oh, you please get my records from there, from there. They call the other practice, they kind of download the whole thing, transfer it from one place to another. In the process, I've lost some. I know I've lost some. And recently, as of yesterday, it was quite funny because I went and did an ultrasound. And when they gave me access to their portal, in the history, I suddenly saw stuff from 2013. I was like, hang on, that's mine. And so I had some history back of some ultrasound and scans that I did in 2013 and 2015, my shoulder and then some other stuff. And so I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I quickly saved it. But there is a major problem of data fragmentation. And it's worth when you try to go from one country to another. There's like strictly nothing there, obviously, for privacy reason on the first hand. And I guess that's why it was done in the first place. But now that we're global citizens, I moved from France 22 years ago to New Zealand. I can't say that any of my record followed me. So and I have no idea actually what my records were back then, and I don't know how to access that either. So it's a no man's land there. So one thing that really caught my eye and my ears when you were talking is your focus on data sovereignty and health data privacy. Can you just elaborate a little bit how you go and solve that challenge and work around that challenge? Why is it important in terms of healthcare that we address this properly?
Yep. So major issues that are facing a lot of the other companies, including us, that tries to solve the problem of data fragmentation is that when you have the data saved in a single server, it's like that actually infringes upon a lot of the regulation in most countries. So if you are if you are as a company, you want to aggregate the data from different sources and you put it in a single server, you're basically deemed as owning it, for example, in Korea. So the way we approach this but when we are running our infrastructure, our protocol is that when we are putting out the data from the source, we de-identify it and then encrypt it, and we process the data according to HIPAA standards so that it could be transferable and interchangeable across countries, across hospitals. And then this data is saved through your DID to either like the source, like the storage could be of your choice, IPFS or like cloud. But this basically we're creating individual data safe for everyone so that you are the only one that has access to it. So your private key is the only key that has access to the data, and whatever data is shared and transferred out from your data safe is only under your consent, and you can selectively choose the data that you want to share with various parties. For example, if you want to use like a diet supplement kind of app, you don't want to share your like conditions about cancer, whatever, because they might be giving out too much information, right? So you want to, and you like to actually be able to select the data you want to share, but that's not possible when you have like this old document full printed out, or you have an Excel or like a sheet there where you just have to give it up, or you have to try to change it according to like your preferences. That's very, very difficult for normal patients. So we help you do that, so that whatever's saved in through us, it's only accessible by the individuals that has right over it. And so as a protocol, even though we help you store and manage your data, we don't have access to your data, so that it's private and it's encrypted that way.
Very nice, and that's really a big thing that I think is key in this field, and I don't see enough of that. I mean, there are too few projects that get the importance of having self sovereignty over data and having actual user centric infrastructure, so that the user is at the center and is actually empowered with that data in terms of monetization or in terms of insights. And that's something that we also advocate a lot. I mean, I see a lot of blockchain projects recently. There's some that have been funded by big VC firms, etc. But I see a lot of them that they seem to be managing consent on chain. I understand that. I could be wrong, but consent on chain is just another fancy way of scroll down and tick the box, and we'll just record that on chain, and then you can revoke it. Yes, but it's just another fancy way to use blockchain. But I just don't see it's not putting the user at the center, and that's just sort of breaking my heart a bit, because it's just a bad use of technology, in my opinion. And so I'm just being sensitive there. I think other people will have different views, but with all the different platforms that are all wanting you to surrender all your data everywhere, I think there's like 99% pressure and 1% revolution. I hope we are part of the revolution. I think, and one interesting thing is that you're doing this using the idea of a health wallet, right? Which is also something that we're thinking of, because if you're thinking of how you empower a user and have them, monitor and control something with their phone, obviously, then you'd have to have an app, right? How does it work with Hippocrat?
So the way it works for us is a little bit different. So we try in the beginning to not to focus too much on our own app. So we have our data wallet, but it's not fully developed yet, and we're not really advertising it that much, because the way patients are interacting with us at the moment are through the applications or website of the hospitals. So what they do is, let's say, for like our main partner, Celos Care, that does about 1.5 million health check every year, and they're actually working with 800 hospitals. They're expanding their network very fast. They're trying to address like 10 million patients a year, which is a big number in Korea. What they're doing with us is that when people get their health check and they want to receive the results and they want to like see it, they see it through the application. And what we do is, the moment the patients sign in to retrieve the data, we create the ID, and then we save the data, the health record like results on the decentralized server like IPF or like as the cloud that I explained, so that the moment they're using the app within the backend, we're leveraging the blockchain technology. So after they do it and use it, and what happens is that after all, if like we after we implant this API in multiple hospitals, they'll be onboarded in multiple hospital points, so that in the end, their data is already saved through their DID, and when they end up using our data wallet, they can aggregate the data from different sources because they're already onboarded. So that we want to create like a seamless experience for people interacting with blockchain, so that they don't have to know about crypto, they don't have to know about the wallet. The moment they're using, just it's say the UI UX is exactly the same as their previous relationship experience with whatever applications or services they've been using. So while they're using it, for them it's like a UI UX facing them saying, "Oh, I want to save this data on a safe like data wallet," and it's already done. And they don't have to make a transaction. They don't have to like sign something, because that's already happening through our like private policy agreement, etc., etc. When they're onboarding, when they're signing up to the application. Yeah. So that we want to onboard as many people as possible before them having to learn about blockchain.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. Actually, if they don't have to learn about blockchain at all, it's probably even better. Um, I love that, and actually, I think it's very smart, because wherever you go, with hospitals and doctors and lab test centers, etc., and you request a copy of your record, and I'm doing that all the time at the moment. So because I'm the guinea pig, uh, I can see every time they have their own interface, or they are developing their own software to actually be able to give you access. So there is no one size fits all there, and then there's definitely not a uniform answer, to manage this data. They're just going to their IT providers and going, we need an interface to store and then retrieve and then give customer access to this data. So can you build us something? And so they build stuff that's pretty. I mean, if I have to comment on the quality of the UI UX of someone who's developing for this kind of industry, I'd say it's really you could learn a lot from consumer UI UX. I was on that software yesterday, that portal stuff, and then all the windows having trouble to resize them and shifting one image to another image to kind of download my scan. The UX was just pathetic. It's like 1900. I mean, there was no UX in 1900, but that was the feeling. So I think, it's a bit. It's a bit of a jungle. So yes, it's a good approach to be able to go to those people directly and offer them the actual interface that they need to onboard on your systems directly. So I think that's to me, what I've understood of the project and my analysis of Hippocrat is really a strong forte. Is this API, this interaction directly with hospitals, directly with doctors, directly with labs, to offer that uniform standard across all of them, so they can store and retrieve and deliver back to patients their data. So that's now composable between the different institutions. I want to come back a little bit on the sort of blockchain infrastructure, Web3, and particularly the fact that you're using a DAO model of governance. I mean, we speak a lot about DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. They're a little bit like a cooperative. People are trying them here and there. There's been mixed successes. They're still touted as the next best thing. What's your view about being in the trenches, actually using this model? What's your view about it, and how does this sort of decentralized structure work for you, and why is it important to you?
We're experimenting it at the moment. I guess it's not perfect, but what we're trying to do here is, as we are trying to provide infrastructure for data sovereignty, we feel like the way our infrastructure should be built has to be kind of incorporating the voices of our users, our community. So currently, we actually launched proposal today, this morning, about an hour and a half ago, about our potential migration to or transition to a mainnet project from the app. So after onboarding some of the important institutions, we realized we'll be creating millions of transactions on chain, like through our integration. We were like, it'll be better for us. It'll make sense for us to run our own ecosystem, so that we'll be able to incentivize our members better, and to be able to create more utility for our token, so that it could be used in a lot of use cases other than just inside the app. Because before, it was more like we'll give our tokens as an incentive for people to try out the data infrastructure, and then so that they upload and upload and update their data. But after that, their only use was to change that token into a fiat or an exit, or they can use some of the services, but it doesn't there yet. So there are a lot of things that they had to wait in order to use that token. So we wanted to expand that utility part of the token a lot faster by launching a mainnet for our own use, so that when they're interacting with hospitals, when they're interacting with the data, they'll be using the token. So the token is used in all the transactions happening with the ecosystem. And that way we can actually build a better UI UX for our partners, in the sense that currently what we're doing for our users was that we are recording their DID on Solana and the consent transactions on Solana. And then we would, because of the lack of understanding about blockchain from our institutional partners, we are actually paying for all the gas fees, so that But in the end, it could be expensive. So we already created more than 200,000 DIDs. So at that moment, we were like, maybe it's better for us to create like a gas fee abstraction and like chain abstraction kind of features within our mainnet, so that whoever is interacting with our API, which is very simple for our partners to integrate, we let them do it, and then we serve our blockchain as sort of like a SaaS service for them. So we charge based on the transaction that they are incurring, so that then that fee is coming back to the ecosystem, and then could be used for like burning or or buybacks from the market. So that actually helps everyone in the ecosystem. That's what we're looking at.
So the token, I mean, that's an important point you made. The token today is a utility of the token is basically to incentivize people to actually use the infrastructure, the data infrastructure. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So this is more B2B play. You're talking about incentivizing the hospitals, the doctors, or you're talking about users directly?
Both. So for doctors
Both.
and so like the way we think to enable mass adoption of an infrastructure like ours, we need to make it seamless for people to use our infrastructure even before knowing about blockchain, as I said. So they're already onboarded in multiple partners who have millions of patients visiting them every year. So all our like major hospital partners, like for example, St. Mary's Hospital, they have like around 8.5 million patients visiting it every year. It's one of the top 5 hospitals in Korea, known for cancer, like all this like difficult disease operations and stuff. Asan is also like one of the top hospitals around the world. They have millions of people visiting them. So if we can onboard all those patients without them having to learn about blockchain, it'll be amazing play. And then if they are really concerned about their data and they want to deal with it, then we can educate them a little bit, and they can interact with our data wallet and integrate, like aggregate their data there, and then start like owning and managing it themselves. But that's another step further. So we want them to use it even before knowing about it. And then when they actually want to actively like participate in this, then they have the app, our data wallet they can interact with. So that's our strategy. So in order to expand the ecosystem faster, we want it to be like, we want to have that chain that can fuel this happening.
Excellent. Well, what you were talking, I couldn't help it. I had a vision. When you're talking about hospitals and the biggest hospital in Korea and things like that, I had a vision of, I can't remember the name of the soap opera, this kind of TV show that I watched before. I think it was on Netflix. That was a Korean TV show about, like an ER situation. So I had I had this vision just cross my head, so I was laughing internally. I want to sort of zoom out a little bit. You're very active in Korea, talking of having thousands, if not millions, of clients already. Records, 200,000 DIDs, you said, created. So that's actually amazing. I mean, obviously, I'm coming from a small country, New Zealand, so this kind of ability to scale with their internal market is fascinating to me. What's your plan on taking Hippocrat outside of Korea? And I remember you mentioned you were starting to look so about future growth and things. Where do you see Hippocrat going next?
So we have sort of pretty good network of hospitals in Southeast Asia, thanks to our former mother company, Humanscape. Humanscape works with around 1,200 hospitals around the world, US, Indonesia, Vietnam, and I have personal connection with my partner who's supplying EMR solutions to Thai government, and they're replacing a lot of the Thai national hospitals EMR system from which used to be Oracle, like Cerner, and they're moving on to their new service. And he's working also with the UN to implement this EMR upgrade to third world, like developing countries like Colombia. So through them, we will be having a little more global and global integration. And I'll be flying out a lot. End of this year, I'm visiting like 4 different countries, and like Thailand, Indonesia, Taiwan, maybe Philippines. So we are looking into those countries. So Southeast Asia in general, I think they sort of look at Korea as a model to like upgrade their usual like infrastructure, because Korea was that developing country that we kind of developed over the last 20 years to become one of the advanced countries in the world, and we have very higher adoption rate for any tech like IT compared to other advanced countries like in Europe. So I think they try to kind of imitate what we do. So that way it's kind of easier to do like business development in those regions. I personally think we have to go to U.S. market as soon as possible, but it's a very complicated market, very difficult to penetrate into. So we want to start very little. So we probably want to start in the outskirts, like working with the clinics, which deals less heavy data and less connected to insurance companies, because like in US is the healthcare system is kind of controlled and run by the insurance companies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, very tight market, very difficult market regulation wise. But you mentioned you've already looked at compliance with HIPAA and all of these things. So obviously you're ahead of that game already. Why not choose Europe?
Europe, from my experience doing business in Europe, is that it takes too long. Yep. Yep. Italy, I tried to set up. So I actually was, my company, one of my startups was selected by Creative Valley in France. So we were in Station F, funded by French government and related accelerator. And it was very difficult to kind of do anything in Europe due to not just regulation, but bureaucracy and administration barriers. So if I want to spend the same amount of time and effort, I'd rather do it in Asia, which in a way it's faster. Although there are like different types of obstacles, it's faster to move on in terms of adoption. So there and US, that's what I was thinking, because there are more. I think those markets are more open to innovations and like changes, and it moves faster. So Europe, it's a big market. It's very mature market, but it's not in the top of our list yet.
How do you see the other side of that spectrum a little bit? Because we talked of potential collaboration, and I think while you are very focused on the hospital, doctors, and that sort of network, at SymbionIQ, we're more focused on the user and then the apps and other services around longevity, like taking control of your own health, exercising regularly, your nutrition, your mental health, all these other type of apps. Are you looking into that, or is it something that you'd be open to collaborations with other partners?
With like exercise tracking application in Korea. They're working with Samsung Health and all those kind of more health, like wellness related companies and services. So like what we were trying to do is we share, like we helped patients share their healthcare records into that like health app, like the exercise app, so that the users can track the changes that happens to their body when they do exercises, and like vice versa. So that we wanna take the lighter step later. Actually, right after our integration with the major institutions, we are thinking about launching something much lighter, where people are doing like little surveys about their health, and they're getting incentives based on token, or like just something that's easier for people to interact with, and that it's not heavily focused on medical or healthcare, but still it kind of makes them think about their health, and then later it leads to like healthcare data management.
Excellent, excellent. I think you and I will be talking. I've got lots of stuff to tell you about what we're trying to do. I guess, is there any other key areas in terms of decentralized health tech that you are interested in growing into or partnering in? Is there anything else on your radar?
um in general, anyone who'd like to leverage the data will be onboarding that, because that'll be millions of people's health check records. It creates a very unique market in the sense that we have 15 million people getting health checks every year, and it's done in a very mandated format, in the sense that although it's not compulsory, but all the employers are pushed by the government, and they are given like penalties if they don't give out the packages to their employees. So that basically every 2 years or every year, everyone's getting a health check, and they have this data stacked over decades. So that's a very unique set of a large data that could be helpful, yeah, for innovations to happen on multiple fronts. And that is one of the things. And then the other part will be, if we can feed this data to an AI model, so that instead of going to doctors for all the conditions, maybe you can ask simple questions to your like AI agent to get a feedback of what to do. Like, and let's say you have a headache or you have a simple symptoms, and like you want to kind of gauge whether you actually have to go to hospital or not, because going to hospital is very time consuming and energy consuming too. And Korea is really cheap, but in a lot of countries it's not the case. In US, if you want to visit a doctor, this you get a cold medicine, it's like $100 minimum. So like we're trying to develop, it'll be great if you can actually AI model development company can use our data to get this personalized agent developed. That's one area we're looking into in terms of application.
Yeah, I have a very close personal relationship with Korea. I think I told you before, and I'm an ex Samsung guy, so I do understand. I went to Korea several times in my life, and I have experienced Korean culture firsthand. So I'm really always impressed by how Korean people are very organized and very structured in managing these sort of things. And we have a similar system in France called Médecine du Travail, where every year your employer will get you to do a medical checkup. The idea is the ground up. It's to be able to offer equitable access to care. And maybe some people wouldn't be able to afford a checkup or wouldn't have access to a checkup. So it was routine. to have that through your employer. Now, I've been away from France for 22 years, so I can't vouch and say that this is still the case. I would imagine so, but the social security hole, as in the money that the debt that they're accumulating, is world famous now in France. So I don't know, the level of care tends to be on the degrading side now, but we used to have one of the best medical system in the world that was often sort of referenced by others, saying this is so great, and some great system also. We had what we call the vitality card, and it's like a green little card that you take and you just tap into pharmacies and doctors and everything to not have to pay anything. You just charge the government, charge the national sort of insurance system. And you can in France, you have a sort of base model is just covered by everything, and then you pay an extra insurance if you want to go beyond the public system. So you can get what we call a mutualized insurance system. So quite interesting. I think we've covered a lot already, so I'm really glad we did this. Just wanted to see if you had any more thoughts around where the team and you developments and things that we should keep an eye on for Hippocrat. How is the next 6 months to a year? What's going to keep you up at night?
Yeah. Our biggest challenge now is actually the data formatting and processing part. We're focusing very heavily on it. So, saving your data is not a difficult part, but processing it so that it could be kind of standardized across different hospitals and different countries. Even if a lot of the data is already saved under HIPAA format, from a hospital to hospital, the data is saved in a different way, like different terms. And health check data is very very standardized format, because you have conditions and you have a biometric measurements, and then it's about it. But if we are getting delving deeper into EMR, like electronic medical records, and then you have comments from the doctors about certain conditions and their thoughts about it and their opinions on top of the measurements that has been done, and how to standardize that part is very difficult, and we're still figuring out that part. So that's our major challenge for next 6 months to 1 year, I think. Yeah.
That's fascinating, and I was just looking for myself yesterday at all the different. So I've dived a little bit into HL7 and Fire and all these different formats that are sort of like more interface language between different entities to communicate medical records, but also when a doctor sends you a referral to another specialist, or orders directly to your pharmacy a particular script, and the script is transmitted, and then you just go to the pharmacy and your script is there waiting for you. We've got that in New Zealand. So I've looked at all these different communication protocols. And yesterday I was diving into DCOM because of those X-rays and MRIs and things, and I was looking at the different file formats and the headers and all the information that's in there. It's just an amazing world. I don't know that we'll be able to do all of this ourselves, and so I'm thinking maybe this is an area where partnerships are important. It's really important to have systems that work. And if you were thinking across countries, you're just multiplying everything by 10. So it's quite fascinating.
Language is actually a big thing, because the way language is structured around the world is actually involves the cultural understanding of the things. So that's the difficult part. That's the biggest challenge for us in my perspective. Because what we are trying to do in the end, our vision is so that as a globetrotter, you should be able to get personalized, not 100%, but personalized healthcare anywhere you go. You bring your data with you, so that when you're traveling, even when you if you are stuck in an emergency situation, you have to go to a hospital in the local regions, then they already know your conditions about your allergies, or what they should be avoiding, etc., etc., so that you get what you're supposed to get without having to go through all these checks. What we're envisioning, but that has a lot of things to be built in the middle in order to enable that happening.
And you get that in their language.
Yeah. Well,
Ideally.
AI will definitely help. In my perspective, I mean, like in terms of translations and formatting, I think it has been proven to be very, very efficient. So
AI is very good if the language in question has a lot of internet content, because that's what it's trained on. If you're starting to take smaller countries or third world countries with smaller footprint online, it's a lot more challenging for AI. But yeah, there's always room to train that more, and hopefully one day, with the trajectory, the curve trajectory, or the what is it? The growth of AI today, it'll definitely be possible soon. Well, look, I'm delighted. Thank you so much for doing this podcast with us. I think we'll close it here. I look forward to seeing more of Hippocrat everywhere, and thank you for having us today. Thank you for being with us today.
no, thank you for hosting this podcast, Jean-Philippe. Thank you. It meant a lot. It was fun.
Take care. See
Yeah,
you
take
soon.
care.
Bye.
See you.